there has been a terror attack.
In the aftermath, the stunned calm on Westminster Bridge. A passerby capturing the moments after the murderous car journey before emergency services arrived. Pedestrians and cyclists targeted by the killer, treated and comforted on the ground. Eyewitnesses to the carnage console each other. Some break the news on their phones, others clearly distraught. Little surprise after witnessing scenes like this. One victim lying under the wheels of a bus. A dreadful attack just metres from the heart of Britain's democracy, prompting defiance from the Prime Minister.
The values our Parliament represents: democracy, freedom, human rights, the rule of law, command the admiration and respect of free people everywhere. That is why it is a target for those who reject those values. But let me make it clear today, as I have had cause to do before, any attempt to defeat those values through violence and terror is doomed to failure.
This is how it began. Confusion and panic as gunshots rang in Parliament Square. You can see that we're being pushed back by police at the moment. We came down here about 4 or 5 minutes ago and there was a wave of people running down the street, including workmen and others who work around Parliament, who just say they didn't know what was going on, but they heard a noise and they were told just to get out as quickly as possible. And this is where the car ended its bloody mission, smashed into the railings.
Oh my God!
The attacker on foot then forced his way into New Palace Yard, where he stabbed a police officer in front of horrified onlookers.
Just outside Westminster Underground station, when I heard an almighty crash and a vehicle, looked like a 4x4, I could see on the opposite side of the road had crashed into the railings. There was smoke coming from underneath the bonnet of this vehicle. I walked on a few paces further and saw what I assumed to be either a pedestrian or a cyclist who'd clearly been hit and wasn't moving, although he did then gently move for a couple of seconds. The guy who I assume was the driver of this 4x4 got out of the car and suddenly sprinted away from the scene, and that was followed by 4 what sounded very much like gunshots to me.
The attacker was shot by colleagues of the injured officer. The suspect then taken away on a stretcher, stripped, his wounds covered. The red circles mark 2 knives lying on the cobbles. On a busy day in Parliament, the Prime Minister and hundreds of MPs and staff were inside the palace.
Back! Is he coming? Back down! Back down! Back! 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 No, get back! 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 Somebody's under fire!
Counter-terrorism specialist firearm officers, the elite response team, raced inside. The Prime Minister extracted and removed at speed. In her wake, thousands of confused tourists, workers and commuters caught up in a few frantic moments at one of the world's most famous landmarks.
I was just walking across the bridge when suddenly a bus stopped right in front of me and everybody started screaming. And I saw a trainer in the road, and first of all...
A trainer as in a shoe?
A shoe, yeah. And I thought somebody must have been hit by a car. And then I saw a body on the other side of the road, and then there was another body further up. And then when I looked over the side of the bridge, there was another body lying in the water.
Parliament Square became a helipad, bringing armed officers in as ground ambulances took the injured to nearby St Thomas's Hospital. Inside Parliament, 2 hours after Prime Minister's questions, a clerk ran into the chamber with the news.
I am now going to suspend the sitting of the House. This House is now suspended, but please wait here.
MPs and parliamentary staff gathered in Central Lobby, where an armed officer struck an incongruous figure. They filled ancient Westminster Hall, checking their phones for information as the lockdown continued. One MP was caught in the crush outside on the palace perimeter.
We had no choice but to leave the building, and we have rotary doors, one in, one out at a time, so people were getting stuck in the doors. There was a real sense of panic at that point as we all tried to get out of the doors. And I shouted to the security guard to open the doors so we could all just leave as quickly as possible. He was a bit reluctant to do that because I think they'd already been told that they were on lockdown and to keep things shut. But obviously we wanted to get out of that situation where there was shooting behind us as quickly as possible.
Across the river, the London Eye stopped turning. Tourists trapped in the glass pods as the discordant chorus of sirens continued on the ground. New Scotland Yard is a few hundred metres from the scene. Officers brought the grim updates.
One of those who died today was a police officer, PC Keith Palmer, a member of our Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Command. Keith, aged 48, had 15 years service and was a husband and a father. He was someone who left for work today expecting to return home at the end of his shift, and he had every right to expect that would happen. I can also now confirm that there are 3 members of the public who've lost their lives in the attack. Specially trained family liaison officers have been deployed to support them. And, as I confirmed earlier, the suspected attacker was shot dead by an armed officer, therefore meaning that now in total we have 5 people who've died today.
Armed with a car and knives, in a few minutes, one man ended lives and wrought horrific injuries. The day the capital's emergency services feared finally arrived. Robert Nisbet, Sky News, Westminster.